I've called this video Preaching So Bad It Kills. It's a bit unfair on Paul. He ends up in Troas and he was talking to the Christians and then he starts preaching. He seems to have been so taken away with the situation he's in that he's preaching in the evening and he keeps going to midnight. And then in verse 9 of Acts 20, a young man named Eutychus, who was sitting in the window, began to sink off into a deep sleep while Paul talked still longer. Overcome by sleep, he fell to the ground 3 floors below and was picked up dead. But Paul went down, bending over him, took him in his arms and said, "Do not be alarmed, for his life is in him." It seems to kill this young man, but then because God is a God of miracles, he is saved. I wonder how you feel about preaching. If you've heard preaching that is so good that it has seemed to save your life. Maybe if you're a preacher yourself, you've known people fall asleep. I can't say it's never happened to me. In fact, one of the first times that I was preaching was up in Scotland. I was preaching to a group of students, and I'll blame that it was a very warm room and it was in the afternoon, and maybe there were 30 or 40 people in the room, and slowly 1 or 2 of them began to fall asleep, and I could see that. Nobody else could, but being at the front looking at them, I could see they were nodding off. And it came to the end of the session, and I talked for a long time, and I was thinking, oh no, this really hasn't gone well. I remember speaking to one of the leaders of this group afterwards, and they told me how at the end of that session 3 people had given their lives to Jesus for the first time. And I think I learned from that then falling asleep does not mean that you're not paying attention to what is doing. In fact, one of the interesting things, when on the occasion when people may nod off during a sermon in a Sunday service, I promise it doesn't happen all the time, often they come up to me afterwards and they're effusive with the things that they've learned and how much it has moved them. I don't quite understand how that works. Anyway, I hope that preaching that we hear, even if it means that we nod off occasionally with the warmth of the room or the late time of the day, it leads us closer to God. May we have good preaching. I want to have courage to preach the good news, even when it's unpopular like Paul often was, even when it sends people off to sleep. Hopefully nobody ever ends up dead of it. Hopefully, in fact, many people are saved because of it.